Join us and unwind with a good book. Welcome to Relaxing Reads.
Hi, it's Deb in Halifax.
Hi, it's Simone in Vancouver.
Hey, it's Tany in Edmonton.
How are you both?
Good. Still a little achy. I had shingles.
Is that what you ended up having?
Yeah. Yes. I initially thought it was the flu because there are similar symptoms, and my body was really achy, and I actually had a really bad cough, and I got a puffer. So it just progressed like throughout the week. And then by Thursday, I was leaving the studio and I could barely lift my right arm. It was so painful. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And then I did some research and I had a rash. But initially I thought it was from my sports bra. And I had mentioned it to a nurse practitioner who I'd seen, who got me on the puffers. And she said, just keep an eye on it. And then I started Googling, okay, rash with flu-like symptoms, and up pops shingles. I'm like, oh my God. And then I started going through, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. So I had like just a couple like around my elbow, and it's still very tingly, and I get these shooting pains like out of nowhere. And the doctor said that it can continue for weeks and even months after it's done, but oh my gosh. And my mom's had it, and I've known a couple of other people. Actually, a girl here at work, she had one near her eye, and they were really concerned that she was going to lose her sight.
Really? I didn't know it could get that serious.
Yeah, quite serious. So anyway, if you've had the chicken pox,
you're at risk, right?
You are at risk. So I can't give you the shingles. And it's actually our own body that opens up to what becomes the shingles later in life. So I just couldn't, the doctor said, don't be around babies like under a year or pregnant women or somebody who has their immunity is compromised because of some other underlying issues.
Wow.
Like, when do they encourage getting a shingle shot? Because I've had friends who have gotten it in their 30s, but before it was like you would get it, like you were told you're going to get it later in life. So it was like 50 plus. But it's like, if you want to be counteractive, like, should we be getting it younger?
Yeah, apparently. And I should have taken the advice of my colleague who had it a year ago and got the shot, but I never thought of it again after she'd mentioned it. So now I can get it in a few months' time. But then I started hearing from other friends who've had it a couple of times, once in their 20s where they barely noticed any symptoms except for the rash. And the second time around really took them down. So it's something that I feel like it's only been talked about in recent years, or more people are talking about having it or knowing somebody, but it can be quite serious. And it's not something that you want to mess with.
No, it just sounds so scary. Like,
Yeah. So when they confirmed it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to rest now.
Well, I'm glad you're okay, because I know,
Thank you.
You were sick there for a while. It's just the time of year. I feel like we've had a lingering cough in our home since Christmas, like kind of just passing through everybody. Just one of those things. And in our community, there's been a lot of walking pneumonia. That's something I never even heard about either.
I know. I guess it's my sister-in-law and brother had it over the holidays or before Christmas. And it's very much like pneumonia and still very serious. But I think it's the stage at where it is, why they call it walking pneumonia. So sometimes at a certain stage, you can't get the antibiotics, or it's already gone through you. So, just take care and stay home and do all the things that we should be doing when we're sick. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's so much going on.
I know. Well, that's all you hope for is just a healthy start for the rest of the year. Now, hopefully, we're past that.
Yeah. We appreciate when you do have an illness of some sort. It makes you kind of think twice and think, I don't know how people, like, you feel for people who have chronic pain and people who are sick, more than just for a few days or a week. So you appreciate the health that you have.
Yeah, for sure. And how are things with you, Tanya?
They're okay. My rent has gone up, so I'm like trying to look for another place. It's so crazy. So it's like, and my boyfriend and I are like, are we going to move in together? Are we not?
Oh.
I just feel like I feel really stressed, actually.
Big life things.
Like I've lived in my home for 20 years, you know. I mean, it's been a rental apartment, but it's 20
home.
years, right?
Yeah.
It's my home. And I have 3 cats, and it makes it really difficult to negotiate that, right?
Yes.
They're good like with 2, and like everybody, it's so, you know, I want to call the rental board, but every place is like charging not only a pet fee, like a $250, $300 fee that you don't get back, plus rent. They charge you like $35, $40 a pet. And I'm like, you know what? If I had kids, would you charge me
per child?
Kid?
Yeah.
I think it's a bit cheeky. Like, I actually don't know. I mean, everybody's doing it. I don't know. I just feel like there's something wrong with that. I don't mind paying a deposit. You know, if your animal, you know, does something, obviously I get it. You know, they want to fix things up, but a deposit, you know, just like I pay a damage deposit. If I wreck the place, you keep the deposit, right? But no, they're just like, you know, so it's not only just rent. It's, you gotta, you know, if you have a pet, a dog, a cat, whatever, you're paying, you know, rent for them a month that you don't get back. It's so, anyway, so I'm just feeling stressed because I've been in my building for a long time, and I don't pay for my animals, you know. I don't pay for heat, water, anything. So, except I just pay my rent, right? So it's a challenge. Just finding
That's tough.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm feeling a lot of stress. I hope I don't get shingles.
Yeah.
No. And you know
It's
what?
the last thing you need.
That is a thing. And I think we seem to do a lot. We multitask. We just keep taking on more things, and we keep on taking more things on and putting them on our plate because we know we can do them. We've done them before. But eventually our body says, not this time. So,
like
you've
what
got
happens
to be
with
careful.
Brooklyn.
I was just going to say.
What happens with Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So crazy.
Anyway,
So crazy. So that's me.
It can only get
and I have
better.
a trip I have to take, and I shouldn't even say that. I have a trip I have to take because I won this gift card, and it's like, it's awesome. Like, I won it last year. I had a year to use it. I haven't used it yet. All travel has to be completed by April 17. And it's like, you know, it's a trip anywhere they go. So I'm just like, I don't know who to put on the ticket with me. Is it going to be Greg? Is it going to be my sister? Is it going to be, you know? So I get caught up with all the details, and it makes me actually not able to function at all. It's so stupid. Like, anybody would dream for something like this. And for me, it's just crippling. And I don't know whether it's just because of all the other shit that's going on. I just feel like,
probably.
You know, anyway.
Yeah. It seems like when you have a lot of decisions to make, I think that's it. You start thinking of like the overall, like, the enormity of all of it, as opposed to just saying, okay, I'm going to break this down and, you know, do this, but it's all happening at once. So it's really hard for you. But you know what? You'll get there. And before you know it, you'll be on that vacation. Life will be sorted, and you will think back and say, you know what? It was a tough couple months, but at least I'm here now, soaking up the sun, maybe somewhere warm.
Thank you.
And it'll all work out. It always does, right? We stress
it.
about things, and then it just always works out.
Yeah. Yeah, we're putting out the positive energy for you.
Exactly. Good vibes.
Energy. Yes,
Yeah,
good vibes.
good vibes.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our discussion. Deb, tell us a little bit about this book.
Our latest read, Brooklyn Thomas Isn't Here, is a novel by Alli Vail. Her best friend is missing. Her career is a disaster. She's stuck living with her parents, and now her heart isn't beating. Can Brooklyn Thomas confront her past to save her present? Brooklyn Thomas is pretty sure she's mostly dead. She can't feel her heartbeat, and she's disappearing. Her reflection keeps vanishing from mirrors. No one else seems to notice, and to top it all off, she's hallucinating stars from all her favorite TV shows who want Brooklyn to pull herself together and face some hard truths. This book explores how women contort and minimize themselves to fit the role society and family offer them, and the serious price they pay for doing so. The one thing that I took from it, or not just one thing, but one thing that I think a number of readers will get as well is the donut theme. And every time I put the book down for a moment, I thought I should really go out and get some donuts.
I'm with you. I was like, I don't eat as many donuts as maybe I should consume. Like you're hearing about people walking in, getting their daily donut or doing that. And I was like, I need to start eating more donuts.
I'm totally with you guys. There was like that whole craze, at least here in Edmonton, where everyone was doing cupcakes, like little cupcakes, and wedding, people would do like wedding cake cupcake things, and it was very elaborate. And now it's like donuts. There's so many donut shops here. And when I was reading this book, I mean, I could just taste those donuts.
So good.
And all the people who worked there, they were all eating donuts, and I don't think that they were gaining any weight. And I'm like, I want to know how that happens.
Well, I think a lot of them were in their young 20s.
They were young.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
It hits
speaking
different
from
then.
experience, it doesn't happen. I worked at a donut shop, coffee shop, and used to take home some of it, like at the end of the shift, the old donuts that didn't go, they're like, okay, split it, take it, do whatever you want with it, because otherwise they were throwing them out. And I put on like what did they say, the university, the college 15,
Freshman 15 or whatever.
Yeah. I put on a few pounds by doing that. So then I had to say, no, I don't need those day old donuts. We'll just leave them over there in the corner.
Exactly. But, the donuts were the sweet spot in the book. There was a lot of heavy stuff in here.
There was. Yeah. It's definitely not a light read. It's relatable. And when we talk about the donuts being the soft spot, I think it's because it's comfort. And I also found myself taking a moment or two to take everything in, everything that was happening with Brooklyn, and take some deep breaths, because there was a lot happening all around her. And I found myself thinking about my younger self and some of my friends, and how we couldn't stand up for ourselves as young women in a workforce. Now we could go back and offer encouragement and say, you go get what you want and you deserve this, and don't stand back. You have the right to say or do as you believe, without stepping out of line and being disrespectful, I suppose. But I could see Brooklyn in a number of people I knew, including myself at times. Did you both feel the same way or similar?
Not to the extreme of Brooklyn. I've always been sort of fascinated by, I think maybe just people in general, where, what is it in a person that gives them, the strength that they need, even as a young person, to be driven, focused, and it seems like nothing stops them. And then there's, I think, where most of us sit, as you're younger and then you get older, you are so affected by what other people might say to you, how people treat you, what your parents say to you, and you don't really have that self-confidence, and that might continue into your early adulthood, and hopefully you get through it, but it just takes some of us so much longer to get to that point of strength. And I think with Brooklyn, like, she just, as you read this book, you find out what her relationship is like with her mother, complicated. Her relationship with her brother, horrific. What she had going on in terms of work and what happened to her at work. And at some point, her body just shut down, where she felt like she was disappearing. She felt like she was dead, And I think that I can see that happening to people, because sometimes we just don't have the strength. It seems like all the forces are against us, and we just shut down bit by bit by bit. And I think with Brooklyn, it was like her heart stopped, or she felt her heart stopped. Her arms stopped. Like everything just sort of stopped with her. And, with a university degree and being director of communications or whatever she was with that Lawrence Communications company. And then all of a sudden, she crashes and burns, and she's working at a donut shop, Mm-hmm. And it's like, I just think it's a culmination of a lot of things that put her in the donut shop, and I think it happens to people. I've had times where I haven't been that, confident, and you just should have shut down, and then you regroup, right? So I think life is always about kind of regroup. Stuff happens, regroup. I don't know. What about you, Simone?
Yeah, I think that too. I mean, there was some scenarios where I thought I could relate to it, like just having those feelings of anxiousness. Like I've had moments where I've been really anxious, and same thing. I feel like, your heart, you're just like kind of panicking and you're doing that. So when she was talking about not feeling like she had a heartbeat, I've been there where I'm like, I need to look at my Apple Watch and to see where my heart is. And you don't realize it until you're out of it, like what that was when you're just really overwhelmed. And I went through a period of life as well, like when I was years ago, where life just was not great and I couldn't pinpoint what it was. And then when I got out of it, I'm like, I think I had kind of a slight depression. I just was not enjoying things, but there was nothing really big going on in my life to pinpoint why I was going through that. But obviously it could have been an accumulation of just things like not being happy with work or certain things in life. I think you get to those points where maybe you've set goals for yourself and then things change. But, I feel like as we get older, I'm way more confident than I was when I was younger. And I think it's easier to regroup as you get older, because when you're younger, sometimes you don't know the path you want to take. You can get your education, you can choose a career, but at some point you might think this is not for me and you want to make a change, and you don't know how to when you're stuck in that rut, it is so hard to pull yourself out of it. And with Brooklyn, I think she leaned so much on her best friend. And, you have those friends who kind of excite you and you do things with. And she had that with Penny. And when Penny was no longer around, she was almost like, who am I? Like it was a relationship she was mourning, because she was like, I don't know who I am without this person. I can't be honest with my parents about my situation with my brother, not feeling good about herself, like not feeling like a guy would want to hit on her. Like she was just so stuck. And it's very relatable in the sense that I think most people will go through that in life, where you are in a situation like this and you don't feel good, you don't feel confident, but it's about hopefully you can get over that hurdle, because it's hard when you're in it. It's hard to see. And people can tell you, oh, you should get a new job, or you should get out of a relationship. You should do this. But until you see it, you can't.
Yeah. And you have to be ready for it as well. You can take the advice, you know and understand what is right for you, but until your whole body, your mind, your soul, everything is ready to move on and go get whatever that is, you can't do it. It seems like such an easy task, but talking about Penny, her friend, being around, I think when we're younger, and now as well with our friendships, our core group of friends, we feel such comfort, and there's always a bit of an adrenaline high. There's a rush when we're doing things with those people who mean so much and who get us, our little tribes, that when they are missing, a part of you is missing. So I think maybe that's where she was fading, and she was not feeling like she was her complete self, and she didn't know how to find that part of her again, or at least mend it until she got over this particular hurdle.
Mm-hmm. And like the work challenges, like being in that environment where you're dealing with a mainly male-dominated industry or something like that, and just being told time over time that you're not enough or you're not good enough. Like, that's why I think now with the future trying to be more female in corporations and organizations who are understanding that, hopefully that is going to be a step in the right direction for women not to feel a certain way. Like, I know feeling that way when I was younger, and it still happens, but that's just work that needs to be done there too.
Yeah. I mean, in the workplace, honestly, it wasn't that long ago when women, a friend of mine said that his wife experienced this when she was working in radio as an executive assistant, and that she would have her ass pinched by a general manager. And just certain types of behavior that were just accepted, and that wasn't that long ago, so we actually have come really, really far. But yeah, there's some awful situations that women have gone through in trying to better themselves and try to be equal, and we're still not there yet. We still have a long way to go. But, this book does explore that, of what Brooklyn went through with this company that she worked for. She would do up releases and that sort of thing, and then it would be redone by somebody else in the firm, unbeknownst to her. Like, she'd find out about it afterwards. There was a sexual altercation within the office, which kind of prompted her that she left, right? But then it just makes you angry that these things are even happening, and that's why she had to leave, and she wasn't standing up for herself, and she couldn't tell her mother because her mother was completely disconnected from her. She had a star son, and I felt like she just didn't connect with her daughter. Now, mother-daughter relationships are difficult or can be difficult, but wow. I felt like this whole book is sort of, with Brooklyn, just trying to find out who the real her is and having her voice. And, when you had a childhood friend like Penny where you did everything together, and then she goes and changes her life and you're left and you don't know who you are, it's difficult, This whole book is just her trying to figure out who her true self is and having the guts to live it. And I think that's why she feels so immobilized and not seen and invisible. She just doesn't know. I mean, there's a thing where she watches a lot of TV and it says that, reality sucks. Like TV fills in the gaps, where life kind of leaves off. And let's talk about like what she ended up doing. She hallucinated, or she had all these television women that she watched when she was a kid, and these 4 women, all named Emily, different spellings, all come visit her at different parts. Like when that first happened, when she was talking to somebody in her room, I'm like, what's going on? What
is it? Hypnagogic? What is it called?
Hypnagogic.
Hallucinations.
Hallucinations where you actually, I did have a definition of it. Anyway, it's an actual real thing that happens to people. Like they say 70% of people have experienced it. I'm like, well, I haven't.
I haven't either.
I haven't either.
Well, the doctor...
I have had dreams of, either celebrities or people that you've met through work and you can't figure out for a while in the dream sequence, how do I know this person? And then you see them the next day or you see them down the road and they come into play. So when there are certain dreams, the experts say, that it makes sense if you look at what's going on in your life or look at the people around you. You could see those people and how they come into play and what might ever be going on in your mind at that particular time. But as far as having that happen in reality, live time, I've not experienced it.
No, I've not experienced it. Someone did say once, like if you are thinking about something or you have an idea, like right before you fall asleep, think about it and say, how do I flush out this idea? And apparently when you sleep, your subconscious helps you flush out an idea like that. So that's what I recently saw or read somewhere. So with her, I think it was that same thing. She's in and out. She's about to fall asleep. She's not fully there. And then she's just... the answers she's looking for are coming to her in that form. And it was really weird. Like up until the end, I was like, is this like the Sixth Sense? Is she not here? Like what's happening? I thought it was really weird. But it was interesting that they were all Emily's, but there were all these characters that were like strong, like badass women who had done all this stuff. And it's like, that's what she was searching for. She was searching how to be more like them. And that's what was coming into play. But it was so interesting that when she went to the doctor, it was just like, are you on drugs? Are you doing drugs? Like, what kind of drugs are you on? And it's like, I'm not doing drugs. Like, this is happening. So it was interesting that they were there and they were helping guide her along the way when she was lost. And it just kind of shows you, it's that belief or support system. So she didn't have it in the form of friends, her mom, best friend. So it was coming to her in different forms. So it's like, however you can pull from it, it's just, it's interesting. I've never like read about stuff like that. And I didn't realize 70% of people, that's a huge number. We need to walk around and be like, are you having hypnagogic hallucinations?
They say like 70% experience it at least once in a lifetime.
Once in a lifetime. Okay.
Not repetitive like what happened with Brooklyn. But I've never even heard of the term. So
no.
Yeah.
That's why I love reading. You just learn stuff.
You learn so much.
You do learn stuff. Like, we can manifest a lot of things, can't we? Good or bad, when we're thinking about, if we're struggling with something, like, oh, it's never going to happen, never going to happen. And then you start to think some more positive thoughts, and one or two little things fall into place. And then you start to believe that, yeah, the good can come to me too. It's not just those other people over there who look like they've got it all going on, and they've always had the strength that I am desperately looking for right now. So I think that we all have the ability to do that and gravitate towards those good things, along with the other things that might be weighing us down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find that I find our brains fascinating. Like, it's like the most important part of us, other than our heart.
Mm-hmm.
But our brains determine so much, don't they? Like, they can, if you don't believe in yourself, if you're down and out, your brain will just go there, but it can also learn to love yourself too, right? Like, it just really determines how you live your life and how you are affected. And I just found it fascinating, especially seeing Brooklyn's sort of arc in this book of where she started and what's happening to her and where she gets at the end. She at the end, she grabs some, and she just, oh wow, what she did with Matt. Mm-hmm. So Matt is this crazy guy. Matt is the guy who owns the donut shop. What a creepy, icky person he was.
Oh, it's just so bad. Yeah.
Greasy.
Yeah. But I think after years of not being able to stand up to men in the workplace, in those corporate jobs, she kind of didn't know where to go. But then she realized, this is not a big deal. This is not like a career job. It's a fun place I am while I'm between jobs. So she took a stand. And then I like that she took a stand for those younger women, like how we were saying, like, as we get older, it's kind of our duty to help the younger women and the younger generations by providing that advice of, like, we went through this and this is what I would have done if I could go back in time. So think about these things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course we hear about, sorry, Deb, we hear about what,
that's...
Kaylee and Becca are these two young women. I'm thinking they're hot young women, I don't think Matt hires anybody except that. But we find out a little bit about them, and we find out about Kaylee, who is really trying to be Brooklyn's friend, and Brooklyn's just sort of arm's length, and we find out that Kaylee had a girlfriend of hers that Matt, one of his friends, hit her. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole, because Kaylee was very sort of like, she didn't take any shit from Matt, and you understand why, because she knows what Matt's friend did to her girlfriend, right? And so, but she's also living with that I don't know. I don't think her girlfriend reported it. That's kind of stuff makes me crazy.
I know, but I think it comes down to, like, find a safe space. Find someone who you can share things with, because I think so often we're so afraid of saying things or being judged, or it's hard to talk about certain things. But the more we start to do that, we can all relate better to each other, because we all know someone who's gone through situations. We've gone through situations, and it's one of those things I always think, like, sometimes why don't people speak up? Why don't we say the things we want to say? And we're so afraid, but it's when you're finding a safe space, that's what you have to look at. Like, who can be the one person in this whole world that I can truly say whatever to without fear, without judgment, and go from there. But I really liked her journey from where she started to where she was, and she went through that struggle like so many do. But we got there. We got there where she found her power.
And what about Henry?
Henry just kept showing up at the right times.
He did, didn't he? He did.
Yeah. He was kind of dreamy, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he was her, he saw her. Mm-hmm. And we find out later in the book why he kept coming into the donut shop. And that he didn't actually eat donuts. So I thought that was really, I really kind of like that. But, obviously people are complicated, relationships are complicated, and there's definitely a lot of that with Henry. But there's one point that I really loved. He asked her, Brooklyn, to go to a museum in Victoria, and she had kind of forgotten about how much she loved history. And he said to her, he said, I can hear your heart when you talk about history. And I'm like, gosh, isn't that what we all want in a partner? Someone who sees us, like when we talk about something and our face lights up and we're like, and you have somebody with you, whether it's a friend or a partner or whomever, that goes, wow, I get it. You light up. I see that. I love that. So I was really pulling for those two.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That moment where, was it Kashfi walked in? She's like, wow, isn't this adorable? I was like, what is going to happen here? And she sure gave her an earful. But the brother was the worst character.
Horrible.
Just terrible.
Yeah.
Like, just how do you... Like, I get sibling rivalry. My brother and I, we have fought along the way, but we have never been that nasty to each other, ever. And it's just... That was a hard part of the book, for sure.
Yeah.
He's a sociopath.
My brother as well. Like we with the girls, there were 3 girls in my family, and we were all kind of, trying to find our space. And we did get along, and we, certainly share a lot of laughs today, but it never got to the extent of where you you had that great fear and you thought, is this truly somebody who's part of my family? And lifelong fear.
But it's also because the parents didn't shut it down. The mom didn't shut it down, right? Like, I have 2 boys, and there is a lot of fighting. There's a lot of stuff, but I shut it down. I try to look at them individually, understand, where it started, how it did. Like, you try to do your best to be like, okay, take some space, do this. You're not trying to pick a side. You're just trying to say, how do we move from this? How can you 2 work it out, figure it out, right? Like, it's hard to do, but if I just supported one child over the other, you can see how it's hard. You don't have someone to talk to, so you just let it slide because you're like, oh, I don't want to upset mom again and complain because she's not going to believe me or dad's not going to believe me. So I think that was hard, that she just, like, if you don't get that support from your parents and they're not shutting down that bad behavior, then, until the end, which I was so happy that the dad was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
And, but that was definitely a challenge. So you can see why that was hard for her too.
Yeah, I feel like her brother Spencer was evil. Like, she would say that his blue eyes would turn black, which is basically emotionless. And then they would go back, right? So I think he inflicted real harm on her and enjoyed doing it. I mean, even at the very last, when the barbecue was happening and he reached behind her neck and squeezed, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I think Grace and Ashley, I think they saw it, right? And so he truly was an evil character. Like I said, a sociopath. What's really scary for me with that particular character is that he was training to be a doctor.
Yes.
I know.
When he has no feeling for people. Like, these are the people that harm animals, right? Like, I'll have to ask the author, I think, why she wrote such an evil character. Like, I didn't think he had any redeeming qualities. He was just a really awful, awful person. And that will just continue fictionally into this person's life as a medical doctor. Like, that just makes me go, ick. Horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Frightening.
Yeah.
It was Grace, wasn't it? Grace that came around at the party.
It was Grace.
And
I liked her.
clocked him.
She had.
I know.
Yeah. There were some great
place.
characters in this book.
Oh, yeah. Great characters.
There are, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it seems like
very
she's
relatable.
And she seems like now she's found like kind of her new group. She's got Henry. Henry's friends were all very warm and accepting, and she's finally come out with the truth about a lot of things. So I think she's on the right path forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's that scene towards the end where she does have the, hallucinates Penny, and that whole part of the story too is just, how your best friend, everything that you plan to do changes, right? All of a sudden this other person wants to do something else and goes and does something, and then she's off and she doesn't come back. And it's just sort of that heartbreaking moment where she truly, feels that Penny is gone. And it almost made me cry. I almost cried at that little part. Yeah. Because it's just like, But yeah, Brooklyn comes through though.
Yeah.
And with, like you said, Simone, new group. She's got something deep inside of her. She told her mom everything, right? She told her, or her dad. I really loved her dad. I felt bad for him too, because I felt like he didn't really know his family. He was almost invisible.
Seems like he's doing a little reevaluating here too at the end.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot going on in his life.
Yeah.
So I kind of...
I'd like to see a little more of what could be, you know, what their relationship and a few others might be. I don't know if there is something else to come beyond, you know, this novel, but I'd be interested in reading about it.
I think it just goes to show, like, overall, like, wherever you are in life, you can make those changes. You don't have to stay stuck. Like, sometimes we do stay stuck, but every day is a new day, and it's a new chance to, you know, wake up and say, okay, like, am I happy? If I'm not, what are the steps I need to take to get that happiness? Because we all know life is short and we all have struggles, but it's just, how are you going to pull yourself out of those struggles and truly live the life you want to lead? It's all up to us.
Yeah. Yeah. It can
and have
be
great friends. Really
Support
nurture.
system.
friendships,
Nurture that
support
support
systems
system.
are big, huge, because
Gets you
life,
through.
we know life is tough, but it can be so beautiful too.
Yeah, it was a good book, a good read, a good little eye opener.
Yeah, definitely.
So again, the name of the book, Brooklyn Thomas Isn't Here, from Alli Vail, who we will actually chat with on our next episode. Thanks for being here with us. Until next time, goodbye.
Thank you for kicking back and relaxing with us. We hope you'll join us again on Relaxing Reads.